Hey, it's Chris O'Neill.
And Adam Perry.
All right. A Quiet Place Day 1 has been in theaters now for a few weeks. I was able to watch it not too long ago, and we're going to discuss the In a Quiet Place franchise. Started back in 2018. John Krasinski directed. And
Jim from The Office.
Yes. And I think just like a few years before that, he was in that Benghazi movie, too. So he's starting to take his career more seriously here.
Yeah, I really actually like him as Jack Ryan, the Amazon.
Yeah,
he's a really good.
A few seasons that's been going on now,
yeah, he's a really good Jack Ryan.
A Quiet Place had a good Alfred Hitchcock kind of vibe to it, but the problem is, and this is what made a great movie into a good movie for me, was the original just over-explained everything, I thought. Whereas the Birds, the book is different. But the original movie, The Birds, Hitchcock, you didn't know why the birds did what they did. But at the end, they over-explain, and it kind of takes away the fun of the movie because it's like you don't trust your audience. We were talking off air about this. How
right.
I miss the days when directors and filmmakers, producers trusted the audience and maybe make them figure it out for themselves.
Right.
You know, don't explain the ending. Why did all of these creatures kill? Why did they have such good hearing? Now we have to explain the different frequencies and blah 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 blah. And
right.
It takes away the fun of the movie. But I did like In a Quiet Place. I thought it would have been a great movie if it ended at a certain point. Mm-hmm. But then it just kept going. They explained everything, and
yeah, the movie was a little long. I'll agree with that. Again, it was I liked it. It was different, unique, concept that we haven't really seen before. This whole, having to keep everything in complete silence.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a good avenue to explore and stuff like that. It wasn't anything that made me crazy. It's not anything that.
Well, you're already crazy, technically.
Well, that's a whole different discussion, Chris. It wasn't a movie that I raved about. It wasn't a movie that I championed. It was a good one-time watch for me. And
same here.
Proud of John Krasinski for taking a chance like that and directing a movie like that. Because I mean, again, up until then, we only really knew him as Jim from The Office, as this comedic actor. He had been in a couple rom-coms and stuff like that.
Right.
So to see him branch out into a different genre and to deliver a movie like that was awesome.
And not only directing, but he starred, co-wrote the movie, produced it. It was a labor of love for him.
And God bless him for directing his wife.
Yeah. Not everyone can be like John Cassavetes and direct their wife so flawlessly, and he does a good job of this. So.
Yeah.
But the ending kind of ruined it, and then now we had a sequel. Again, you had Emily Blunt in it, and he directed it, and he had a cameo flashback appearance in it.
Right.
The invulnerable alien invaders, and it kind of had a Cloverfield, War of the Worlds kind of vibe. And again, if they kept the Hitchcock premise, I think it would have been more successful. So now fast forward, 6 years later, we have a third Quiet Place movie. This time it's Day 1. Mm-hmm. You got brand new characters in there. Oscar-winning actress Lupita Nyong'o, and you have Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things fame.
Cool.
They're both kind of set adrift in New York City on day 1 of the alien attack. Now, before we get too further in the plot and everything, I just want to remind you, this is a new movie, so we're going to spoil it. If you've already seen it, sit through as we discuss from start to finish this movie. But if you haven't seen it, watch it first. It's still playing in theaters. It's one of those franchise movies that will stay in theaters for months because some people want to see it. But yes, you have Lupita Nyong'o. She plays the part of Sam. She's fighting cancer. Mm-hmm. She's at a facility, and she's getting treatment for it. She's not doing so well. Mm-hmm. She's only promised a few months to live. She's already past that threshold, so anything goes at this point. And when the alien invasion attacks, the nurse has taken Sam and the other hospice patients in this facility, they go see a show in New York City. It's a puppet show, if you will, a marionette show. So that's when the alien attack happens, and of course she's kind of set adrift, and her only companion is her cat. That's the thing. The cat is just as much of a main character as Lupita's character is. And the cat's played by two different felines, Nico and Schnitzel. Frodo is the name of Sam's cat in the movie. And that cat is a prominent character in this movie.
Oscar goes to the cat.
Well, it's really good. And I really wanted to like this one too, because Jeff Nichols, who did the movie Bike Riders recently, another movie that probably would have done better in theaters if it didn't have a small window of opportunity. But yeah, Jeff Nichols was set to direct this movie 4 years ago.
Wow.
So we would have seen a Quiet Place sequel sooner, but for some reason, Jeff Nichols, he wrote the script, and despite it, he dropped out of the film in October of 2021. So fast forward, we got Michael Sarnowski, who actually wrote the film with John Krasinski. And I know John really encouraged him to do this because just a few years before, he had another animal character movie called Pig with Nicolas Cage. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one, no.
If you want to see Nicolas Cage be subtle in a movie, how often do we see Nicolas Cage subtle?
Right.
Never.
No.
This movie, you get to see him be subtle. It's probably his finest performance. I put it up right. Yeah, maybe Leaving Las Vegas is a little bit better of a performance, maybe adaptation, but Pig is one of Nicolas Cage's finest roles.
Nice.
So when I saw that this guy was set to direct it, it's the same guy who made Pig. That was actually a pretty good movie. I don't know if I could watch Pig again because there's a lot of depressing scenes in that movie.
Right.
But hey, I'll give it a shot, And my wife is like, "You're going to hate this movie, Chris." Now, wife is always right, and in this case, she was. I really wanted to like it, but the plot, you got, terminally ill cancer patient. She's very pessimistic. She lives in this hospice outside of New York City with her cat, as I mentioned. So after the show, the guy's just trying to make these people, make them live a more quality life. So it's like be stuck in a hospice center all day. Let's get them out, go for a show, get them out, and have a fun time out for once. Let them live a life a little bit rather than being stuck in a hospice center, because they have their rooms. So she's got a very pessimistic view of life, and I don't blame her.
Right.
So she after the chaos ensues, you got these aliens invading, they're destroying everything in New York City. You've got an obvious CGI New York City getting, torn apart here. And I know how much you love CGI.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I revisited Big Trouble in Little China last week, and my wife brought up the fact, imagine if this movie got remade today. I'm like, no, I don't, because it would be artificial and crap. That was the fun thing about movies in the 80s and 90s. You had real things. Yes, it was make-believe, but you had monsters that were made up or had a suit.
Yeah.
So you had a huge human element.
Yeah.
And artificial intelligence and computers take away all of that. They really do. You imagine it just having sets on a studio lot where you could just blow them up.
Right.
Those days are long gone, I'm afraid. But
I know it's very expensive to film in New York, actually film in New York City. That's why everybody shoots New York City and Vancouver.
Right.
Or they go to like the Warner Brothers backlot that has a whole but
recreate. I know it can be expensive hiring set people to create all this, but create a set where things get destroyed. Mm-hmm. Why not?
Right.
Make it big. I mean, this movie had a $67 million budget. Okay, that's less than 100. So they weren't going to take a huge risk with this because, I mean, A Quiet Place isn't as big as Halloween or
right.
It's not as big as the Marvel franchise, so they're not going to spend too much money with it. But at least make the sets, make awesome set pieces that can be destroyed.
Yeah, and what's funny, Chris, is in the movie I was watching the behind the scenes of is escaping me right now, but actors are getting so used to being on a green soundstage and working with green screen for the digital.
Right.
I was listening to this actress. She was saying that she had so used to the green stuff. The movie that they were doing the behind the scenes of was an entire set, like a fully functional set. And she said it was hard for her to act at first because it was sensory override.
Right.
She was actually looking at the real things instead of just green or blue.
Right.
Or,
Well, I know the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah.
God bless Tom Cruise. All of the action sequences in there are like real action sequences.
Yeah. I mean, I swear Tom Cruise practices unsuccessful suicide.
I know.
Because he gets his kicks out of it,
Well, I mean, John Woo joked around with the Mission Impossible 2 when he's dangling off a cliff and he gets up. Okay, we got to do that again. And Tom Cruise is like, F you.
Yeah.
But so all the chaos ensues. The aliens destroy pretty much everything in the city. Sam, she loses track of her cat at this point. She's just disoriented. She gets lost in the crowd. And then she wakes up inside that marionette theater. And thankfully, the hospice nurse rescued her cat. Because a lot of other people thought the same thing. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Because other than Lupita is such an amazing actress, Adam. Mm-hmm. I doubt you've watched her Oscar-winning performance in 12 Years a Slave.
No, I haven't.
Did you see Us?
Yes.
She was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And she usually is phenomenal. Even the small part that she had in one of the newer Star Wars films. She is such a great actress. And she is good at showing emotion. Mm-hmm. I mean, no one cries or shows fear better on a screen nowadays like Lupita. And if you ever watch that whipping scene in 12 Years a Slave, it's devastating. It's brutal, especially when Fassbender goes crazy on her with a whip. I mean, people walked out of that movie.
Yeah.
It was a pretty intense movie. But, I mean, Lupita is such a brilliant actress. So the only reason I stayed watching this movie is because I was invested in Lupita and Frodo the cat.
The cat.
So she's inside this puppet theater and other survivors, including her nurse. You hear announcements from military helicopters warning everyone to stay silent and hidden until authorities can rescue them. And then, I mean, she's witnessing fighter jets bombing, destroying the bridges leading out of Manhattan, for crying out loud. It's like, oh my God, we're stuck here. And preventing the creatures from leaving the island. One of the survivors begins to panic, and you've got Henry from the second in a Quiet Place movie, Djimon Hounsou. Mm-hmm. He kind of shows up. He's with his family inside the theater. I'm like, oh, I recognize he was in the second movie.
Yeah. But
come to find out, I mean, he's in it for a little while. They're kind of all together. And then they're not, and it's like, what was the point of having Djimon Hounsou in this movie? There must have been some other part that was cut out somehow, because it was like, okay, he's in the movie for literally like 10 or 15 minutes, and it's only, he's from the second movie. That's the only connection. It's like, you couldn't think of any other way to connect these movies. It would have been more interesting seeing John Krasinski and Emily Blunt with their kids like running off to the side randomly in the city. It really would have been.
Yeah.
And granted, the setting was completely different for all these movies. It wasn't in New York City, but you could have easily transported it to the city the Abbotts lived in the first movie, and literally just alluded to it. That's the only connection that could have been made. That would have been fine, rather than forcing a character that had really nothing to do with this plot. Just throw him in there just for a recall of part 2. Mm-hmm. That's just me. I mean, I love Djimon Hounsou. He's a phenomenal actor. He's another person you pay attention to, but he's given nothing to do here except for accidentally killing a guy trying to keep him quiet. And his kid sees it, and it's like,
right.
And you're wondering something's going to happen with him, his son seeing that, but nothing. It's kind of forgotten about. It had nothing to do with Sam storyline. It really had nothing to do with it. So, she witnesses all these things happening. She actually sees Henry accidentally kill one of the survivors. The power grid cuts out that night, causing the generator to go on. And you saw with the first movie, any sound raises the awareness of these creatures.
Yep.
So her nurse, both of them try to go down to the generator room to shut the damn thing off, because you don't want those creatures breaking into a safe building.
Right.
But, well,
it's too late.
It's too late. Creature kills the nurse, and so she takes Frodo, and the whole goal was the whole reason why she went to the theater in the first place was she made a deal. You take me to a pizza place in Harlem, because you'll find out in the plot that is some significance to her. Mm-hmm. So she heads off for Harlem with Frodo the cat, and she hears the military announcing it's preparing to evacuate civilians by boat from the South Street seaport as the creatures are unable to swim. So somehow, miraculously, they found the weakness for these creatures already.
Right. Yep.
So groups of people start leaving buildings towards the evacuation point, but the volume of their crowded movement alerts the creatures who attack them, causing a stampede. Not like Jumanji.
Right, yeah. But
which would probably have been more entertaining. But so Sam flees in the opposite direction and is separated from her cat again. And you're like, hopefully the cat's okay. She runs into this guy who's kind of aloof and just shows up. This English law student, he escaped a flooded subway station. He encounters Frodo the cat and follows Frodo the cat back to Sam. She attempts to convince Eric to go south to the evacuation point, but Eric is just like real shocked at this point, because he is a law student and he doesn't know anybody really. He's kind of on his own here. So he follows Sam back to her apartment. Somehow she's near her apartment at this point. Mm-hmm. Just the magic of storytelling.
Hey, you just happened to be there.
Yeah. You had to be there, Adam.
Yeah.
You had to be there. So while there, Eric learns that Sam is an acclaimed and published poet. There are some poetry moments at the beginning where the nurse is having them read some poetry and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think he's trying to encourage her to be more optimistic about things.
Right.
But he finds out that she's a published poet, and the next morning, Sam just ditches Eric alone because she wants to go to that pizza place in Harlem. There's more that's going to happen here.
Listen, the world's coming to the end. There's aliens. You got to get pizza.
Well, there's more to it's not just pizza.
You got to get pizza, man.
It's this particular pizza place that holds a special place in her heart. So Eric finds her. They continue their journey together. Sam and Eric accidentally alert the creatures, though, because of the sound thing. They flee into a flooded subway with no other way out. The pair are forced to wade through the deep waters. Eventually, waking a dormant creature pursues them but drowns while they escape. And, of course, she's unconscious, but they end up in a ruined church. And while Sam rests, he ventures out by himself to get pain medication for her. He literally, as she's waking up, she describes that she's got a burning feeling in her apartment, but she has no meds in her apartment. Mm-hmm. So he like, hey, what do you need? So he goes out on his own, and he rescues Frodo from a construction site, discovering a group of creatures led by a larger one feeding on the organic remains of humans. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Sam tells Eric that as a child, you're going to find out more about the pizza place. As a child, she used to watch her late father play jazz at a club in Harlem and would get pizza with him afterwards, which is like right next door. So something Sam always wanted to do before she died. So Eric fulfills her wish by taking her to the club. He collects pizza from another store, and he literally writes the pizza place's name on it to try to, keep the illusion going.
Yeah.
And then he does this magic card trick, and it's like, where is all this coming from? Yeah. Roger Ebert's website did a critique of this movie, and I think it nailed it. There's a lot of interesting ideas floating around, but it's just not developed well.
Right.
I mean, this is an interesting story. Mm-hmm. A woman just wants to live one last time before she dies.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story arc. It has nothing to do with In a Quiet Place. Why not call it something else?
Right.
Okay, let's have the aliens in there, the aliens from the first two movies, and let's throw in a character from the second movie to keep it on track and recall.
Right. Yeah, it's good ideas, just poorly executed.
Well, it's not even the idea that they have here is a mess.
Right.
There are some good ideas inside the mess, but it's not put together well. So, she goes to the club, collects pizza. They kind of dance to the music a little bit. That she has this iPod that's charging on a player. So then they see boats in the river filled with survivors escaping Manhattan, and as the two leave together, the creatures start to congregate along the shore. And you see Jamon Hansu's character in the boat. So, okay, recall.
Yeah.
Recall. So Sam gives Eric her jacket and Frodo and then runs off to distract the creatures because she knows she doesn't have too much longer to live. She wants Eric because Eric mentions his parents live in England. Mm-hmm. So this is an opportunity where Eric can live and, hopefully get back to his parents.
Right.
So she sets off all the car alarms, distracting the creature. And meanwhile, Eric and Frodo jump into the water. They're pulled up into a boat by Henry, the Jamon Hansu character. Eric then finds a note written by Sam inside the jacket telling him to take care of Frodo and thanking him for reminding her to live. And that would have been good if it just ended that way, but no, it goes back to Sam walking into a deserted street. She's listening to some Nina Simone because the last song you want to hear has to be Nina Simone.
Yeah. And it's a song called Feeling Good.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So she smiles. She unplugs the headphones. So, obviously the creatures can hear, so she can die.
Right.
That's how the movie ends, Adam.
All righty.
I mean, it's not going to be optimistic, but again,
no happy endings.
Yeah, you don't. Again, if it was a different movie, they didn't have to call it In a Quiet Place.
Yeah,
I just don't understand why. I mean, the movie did well. The movie did critically well. This is one of those critically acclaimed movies that I just don't understand, Adam, because it to me. Lupita makes it worth watching, and so does the performances by the cats. I mean, the cats, having to go swim through water. Cats typically don't like water, Adam. And, I mean, it's that part is good, but the rest of it, it's just a mess.
Right.
It just, happened to come across this, happened to come across that. A lot of coincidences that don't ring true, Adam. They just don't. It just doesn't ring true, and it seems like a smorgasbord of ideas. And
I think the more I think about it, why I didn't go on to see the sequel and really have not much interest in watching this one is I can't really find a reason to care about these characters. Like in the first one, I like John Krasinski's character and he dies. So, it's like I didn't even really care for Emily Blunt. And I mean, I don't know. It just, like you said, it seems like it's a whole bunch of good ideas, but just poorly executed with no...
Again, this could have been any other movie.
Right.
It could have been any other movie. It could have been Invaded or Dying to Live.
Right.
There's a good title.
Right.
I think it's been done a few times, but it didn't need to be a Quiet Place movie.
Right.
And I don't think, even after the first one, Adam, I don't think there were people, correct me if I'm wrong, that were like, oh, I want a sequel to this.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there was an audience. I mean, obviously there's an audience.
Yes.
For it. I mean, because look.
Yes. I mean, again, this movie had a $67 million budget. As of right now, it's made over $226 million.
Yeah. So, I mean, so to say it doesn't warrant a sequel or that people don't want a sequel, you can't say that because there's an audience for it. A third movie in a franchise making that much money off of its budget, it's you're gonna get another sequel until the money dries up. Me personally, I mean, I didn't think the first one needed a sequel, but again, I stand wrong because of the success of the franchise.
Right. See, A Quiet Place 2 was okay. You had Cillian Murphy show up, and he's a great actor.
Yeah.
And his presence is not bad. It helps. Mm-hmm. And Jamon Hansu was in it as well, but it's just...
And again, I know he shares the writing credit. I'd like to know how much John Krasinski wrote part one. Or if he's kind of just there for namesake because he gets credit just for having the original concept.
It's a good question. I haven't researched too much of that because I just wanted to focus on the spinoff. Mm-hmm. But he directed both of them. I know he produced them. Let's see if I can find out more information about this. Scott Beck and Brian Woods wrote the screenplay for the first one. Mm-hmm. And contributions by Krasinski after he joined the project.
Yeah.
So he was the one that was like, this is cool. And he didn't even produce the first one. Michael Bay helped produce the first one.
Oh, wow.
And that's the thing. Michael Bay did that Benghazi movie.
Yeah.
So that's the connection with John Krasinski and Michael Bay. And apparently they hit it off so well that Michael Bay probably was elemental in getting him to direct.
Sure. Yeah.
So the first Quiet Place wasn't too bad. Quiet Place 2 was okay. And Krasinski had producing credit in the second one.
Right.
Michael Bay was still at the helm, but he helped produce it. Now let's take a look at In a Quiet Place Day 1. Michael Bay is still involved with it to some degree, and so is John Krasinski. But
it doesn't say how much, like I said,
the screenwriters, as far as I know, the original screenwriters, Scott Beck and Brian Woods, only wrote the first one. Mm-hmm. They created the characters.
Okay.
And they apparently didn't stay on for part 2 and part 3, which is probably why they weren't as good, I'm imagining.
Could be, yeah.
But it's just a shame. It really is, because if you didn't explain everything in the first movie, it would have been a whole lot better.
Yeah.
It really would have been a whole lot better. It just too much revealing too much to the audience when the audience could probably put 2 and 2 together themselves.
Right.
They really could. But yeah, I'm in the minority, Adam. A lot of people loved A Quiet Place Day One. Mm-hmm. And again, I love Lupita a lot. She is such a phenomenal actress. And I liked the 2 cats, Nico and Schnitzel. They did a good job. And I love Jamon Hansu as well. It's like he had really nothing to do in this movie except for kill someone by mistake. And it's like they make it seem like he's important, but they don't really develop him at all.
Right.
I mean, like, what was the point? He was in the second one. Again, having Cillian Murphy run in the friggin' streets, or have Emily Blunt's character running in the streets with her daughters. At least something really quick to connect the stories.
Well, I mean, maybe this is a connection for later. Maybe he's going to get a spinoff of, A Quiet Place with his own story. And it's, oh yeah, I remember him from Quiet Place Part 1, or Chapter 1 or whatever. It's, this is what he was doing during that. It could be. I don't
know. I don't know what they're going to do now. I really don't know what they're going to do now. We know they're probably going to make another one, but I haven't seen anything like, at least when Maxine came to a close, Ty West said he's developing a 4th script.
Right.
So he's going to keep his franchise going. He doesn't say anything in here about, well, we have another story in the works. It's going to focus on Eric, the English guy.
But big difference between Ty West and this. Ty West, that trilogy is his baby. He's done this is studio owned. So the studio's not going to say anything until they know how much money they've made off of it. Then they'll make a decision. They'll make a big announcement that.
Well, see, Ty West had a 3-part story, and he had ideas to continue the universe, but he wanted to see how the studio, like A24, was going to feel, and how much money, because like you harp on over and over again, and it's so true. It's business.
Yeah,
and thankfully, Ty West's universe have made enough business for it to continue.
Right. And again, Ty West owns everything about that franchise. So Ty West can say whatever the hell he wants about the X trilogy. The people who own A Quiet Place can't, because it's the rights are owned by whatever major studio owns A Quiet Place.
Let's see. Distributed by Paramount Pictures.
All right. So are you kidding me? Paramount's not going to say anything about a possible sequel until they've milked all the money they can out of this, and it will probably be announced at like San Diego Comic-Con.
Could be.
By the way, we got Quiet Place 4 coming out.
Now again, I'm not going to be too much of a naysayer, but I mean, I love Lupita, and I just hope we see her in some better movies. Unfortunately, she's only been in a couple of decent movies. She's a great actress, and I love watching her. She's got a great presence, and it'd just be good for her to be in some good movies, Adam.
Right?
It really would. Let's take a look at her filmography real quick here before we wrap up, because I don't want to focus on this movie too much longer. I'm like literally in the middle of this. I'm like, why am I watching this? And that's not good.
Yeah.
And again, I'm in the minority. The movie has a huge like amount of people that gave it like 3.5, 4 stars.
Yeah. And again, I'm in the minority too. That I didn't think sequels were even necessary for the first one, because I think the first one was a one-time watch.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, she's had the Black Panther movies.
Yep.
The Rise of Skywalker. She was the Yoda-like looking character. Gotcha. I think. Yep. I think. But she was Maz. Yeah, I think that's such a forgettable trilogy, in my opinion.
Oh, let's not get into Star Wars, Chris.
Yeah.
Especially that part of it.
Yeah. So, do we agree on that?
What, the new Star Wars?
Sucking really badly?
The last trilogy. The fact that they couldn't give the 3 original characters one scene of the 3 of them together is such a we're we're scared for reals. We're not scared for sci-fi. So like, let's thankfully let the Star Wars thing go for now.
Right.
I will go.
People have heard enough of it.
Because I was growing up such a huge fan of the original three.
Right.
And those movies destroyed everything about the original three.
Right.
And we're going to leave it at that.
So, I mean, Lupita, other than the Star Wars, the last Star Wars trilogy, she was Maz in that, and she was in
Black
Us. Panther.
Us was great.
Yeah, Us. Yeah, I've liked 2 of her movies, 12 Years a Slave and Us.
I liked the first Black Panther movie a lot.
It was okay, but it was way too long. I mean, there was no way no reason for that movie to be over 2.5 hours, and then the second one was almost 3 hours.
I haven't seen the second one. I like the first one because I guess I disagree with you with it being long because
it felt long.
It felt long
for me.
But Black Panther's a character that needed to be explained because he's not a mainstream hero like a Spider-Man or a Captain America or an Iron Man.
Like
they needed to give him some love, which I don't mind the length.
Well, the thing is though, Adam, and the thing you alluded to, Disney owns all of that.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of room for creativity or passion for the character.
Right.
You need, for someone like Black Panther, it would have been cool to have someone who actually loved the character. And although it wasn't bad, it wasn't. See, I look back at Superman.
Mm-hmm.
The original Superman, you could tell that those guys loved that character.
Right.
There was a lot of passion. Peter Jackson, a lot of love and passion for those characters. You could feel it. I don't feel it with any of these Marvel movies. I really don't.
You didn't feel that Chadwick?
Chadwick's a great actor. He's a good actor.
But you don't feel that he loved and cherished being in that role? I thought he did.
Well, okay, but he it's. I'm talking about the filmmakers. The filmmakers. He did good. Yeah. I'm not taking anything away from his performance. Yeah. He did good with what he had. And he was fighting cancer too. Come to find out too, which is even more amazing. He's great. He was great. I have no problem with him, but he doesn't control the cut or the creative. He wasn't part of the creative process, and that's the part that really drove me nuts.
I mean, I guess a better example, if you're talking about lack of love, and it's something that still hurts me. Green Lantern.
Yeah, most of these movies.
The green. I mean, if I have my favorite DC character is Green Lantern. You've seen pictures of me on Facebook. If we ever get the video, I'm always wearing the Green Lantern. It's a very important character to me. And when they did that movie with Ryan Reynolds, the lack of love and the lack of understanding of the Green Lantern character was such a travesty. It still disgusts me to this day.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds is good. He was not good for that movie.
No,
he did not play Hal Jordan correctly.
I haven't really seen a movie I've liked Ryan Reynolds in.
I like Deadpool. I think he's a great Deadpool.
He's okay.
Reading the comics, I think he's done
the first one kind of.
He's a great Deadpool.
He's okay, yeah. But anyway, we're
off in our own
little world
movie
here.
Geekdom. But
so A Quiet Place Day 1, I'm in the minority. I did not like it. I thought it was a waste of time. It's worth watching, in my opinion, for Lupita Nyong'o, and you got the 2 cats doing a great job. I just wanted to like it more, and the guy who directed Pig, you wouldn't know it from this movie, Adam. You really don't. You really wouldn't know it. But again, like you said, it's a studio entity. So there's not a lot of room for creativity, that's why these movies are just churned out as products, because they're seen that way. There's no love for it.
Right.
And that's why these movies, they may make money, and people like mindless stuff when they go to the theater. That's just a fact. They don't, a lot of times that's why these movies do well, because it's characters and people, franchises they know, versus I'm not sure about this one. I've never heard of this world, so I'm not going to go to that world. I'm going to go to this world instead, which is why these movies always do well, because it's familiar and people know what they're going to get. So, Quiet Place Day 1. What did you think? comment below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you vehemently disagree with everything I said, just let us know. You don't have to swear, but comment below. Let us know what you think of A Quiet Place Day 1. And by the way, Scared for Reals, we're on X, Facebook, Instagram. At Scared for Reals is the handle. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, again, just to encourage, we love interaction with everybody. So please comment, get in on the discussion,
Right.
Message us, get, you've for 60, what?
So this is over 60 episodes now.
When this comes out, this will be 63 or 64. So, again, I would love to see more. We're getting decent views. We get good likes. We get a handful of good comments. I want to see more comics, guys. I want you guys to be in on the discussion with us. You've heard our opinions. You've heard us bicker back and forth. Well, bicker with us.
Right.
We get passionate about our, certain topics and certain things we like, but it's all in good fun. Right. And, it's just fun conversation, and I can't encourage anybody anymore to get involved and make the conversation even more fun,
right. And we'll talk about you if you comment on it. We will definitely talk about you for sure. So again, at Scared for Reals is our handle all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, and again, comment below, subscribe on YouTube.